All right, there is the button being pressed, and it is 11:06. And around this time every Friday morning, we have Sheriff Derek Palmer from the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office with us here on WKRK. My voice is starting to go out again. Can you hear that?
I heard that.
Yeah,
You were just bragging about how you got your voice back.
I was just telling the sheriff how excited I was. My voice was coming back, and then it starts going away. So that means you're going to talk more today.
Well, we can do that, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, I've never been accused of not being able to talk. So.
I've never heard any accusations about that. So that's good, right?
That's right. When I was pastor at Vengeance Creek, there was a little boy on the one of the back rows, and I walked in after Sunday school one Sunday morning, and he was swinging his feet, and I walked in, and he said, "Would you please not preach so long this morning?" So, yeah, I've never been accused of that.
Goodness, please. That's something you'll never forget,
No,
right?
I'll never forget that.
Oh, that's classic.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I walked in this morning, and I have been trying to work on my beach body for the spring coming up and trying to get in shape and trying to lose some weight and all those kind of things. And I walk in this morning, and here Tim has a box of Krispy Kreme donuts laying on the counter.
And he would feel guilty if he would not take one. So
I did eat one.
yeah, he was kind enough, and there's still more there for you.
Yeah, he's trying to ruin my diet, people out there, but I'm not going to do it. I just ate one and put it down.
Well, see, he's losing weight faster than I'm losing weight, and I don't like any of that.
Yeah, so it's sabotage, right?
That's right. This is sabotage. Yes.
Yeah.
How's the sheriff, and have you had a pretty busy week?
It's been a pretty good week, as you've read the papers and stuff. We've had a couple automobile accidents in the last little bit where some lives have been lost, and we always, it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, and those kind of things. Anytime there's a tragedy like that, your heart goes out to people, and losing loved ones and those type of things. And I was thinking today that it's just one of those things that come with, as we have increased traffic flows and we have more people coming to the area. It's one of those things that just kind of comes with it. It comes with the territory. We see more of those automobile accident type things, and we're, as people have already heard, they're looking at working on some of the roads in the area and widening some roads and trying to come up with some solutions to some of the problems that we're facing. So hopefully, with the state DOT and some officials getting involved in that, we can come up with some solutions to maybe make those bad places where it seems we'll be having wrecks over and over again, that they can come up with some type of solution to that.
Yeah, the one this past week was another tragedy. We had some local people lost, and that happened up in around the Brady Curve area in Andrews. And I think a lot of people come up on that curve too quickly or for whatever reason, but there seems to be a lot of accidents. And plus, in the winter months, that area gets pretty slick.
Yeah, I hardly ever see sun in the wintertime. So when you have icing conditions and those type of things, a lot of times when everything else is dry and everything else is melted, there's still ice in that curve. And that's always a bad spot in the county. And, we just encourage, especially all of our local people that's familiar with it, when you're driving up in that area, be very careful going through that area. Really, it doesn't matter if it's summertime or wintertime, spring, it doesn't matter. When I go through that area and go around through Brady Curve up there in the Topton area, I always cringe when I go through it, because I know even though you may be paying attention, even though you may be doing the right thing, it's easy for people that's not familiar with the area to lose control on that curve and cross the center line and things of that nature. And there's just nowhere to go. There's a bank on one side and a rock wall on the other, and there's just nowhere to get out of the way if somebody crosses the line on you.
And for anyone who wants to read the press release, you can go to our website, country.am, and I believe that was the latest news story that we've posted on that. We posted it yesterday afternoon, or you can go to our Facebook page and read it there as well. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is we have new problems nowadays because of technology and everybody having Facebook in their hands and things like that, and just an etiquette situation. And I know people are always wanting to know what's going on right away, but can you tell us about the process and the importance of how law enforcement has to notify family before information's released?
Like this accident, for example, most vehicle accidents are investigated either by the Highway Patrol or by the local police departments. But they do utilize our office, both Highway Patrol and the police departments utilize our office for our chaplain service, as far as victims advocate service, chaplain service, as far as going out and doing notifications and tracking down people and things of that nature. And sometimes, they may do notifications themselves, but more often than not, they they utilize our chaplains to do that. And so it takes some time to identify the person involved in the accidents. It takes the time for identify who the next of kin is and where they live and how to get in contact with them and things of that nature. We actually, of one of the people that was deceased in this wreck up here, we actually had received notification from one of her family members that several people were Facebooking her and sending her messages wanting to know about a family member being killed in this wreck, and she had no idea anything was going on. And so it's important that even though, that we live in instant technology, and even though we live in a world where people want the information right now, it's important to let law enforcement do our jobs and let us do the notifications and talk to people and give it some time before we start posting names and things on Facebook. And you live in this world with live streaming, and so you can take pictures of stuff and send it out immediately and all that. But even pictures, if you live stream, video stream, or whatever, accidents and things of that nature, a lot of times, even though you're not putting a person's name out there, you may put it out where their loved ones see that, and see that accident and see what's going on and know that that's their vehicle or that's their child in that vehicle. And so, there's no law against it. There's nothing we can say you have to do. But, as you said with etiquette, it's just one of those things that it would be very beneficial just to let us do notifications and stuff and give it a few hours. Give it, generally we do those notifications within a couple hours to, a half a day or so for most of them. If it's extended family that's away from home or on vacation or things of that nature, it may take a while longer to track those people down and get in contact with them. But most of the time it's within a few hours that we get contact with them. So, my encouragement to people is when you run across those things, even though you want to post things and talk about this, please give it a few hours and give us an opportunity to talk to people and break the news to people before they read about it on Facebook or start getting
I know if it were
Snapchats and those type of things.
In my situation, if one of my loved ones had been killed in an accident like that, the last thing I would want to do is read about it on Facebook and then have unconfirmed reports. So, so what does the law enforcement officers do? Do they go to the house?
Typically we'll go to wherever they're at, to their house or their workplace or wherever it may be. We want to try to get our notifications done as soon as possible. For that very reason, because we don't want them reading about it or somebody calling them or seeing it on Facebook or Snapchats and Instagrams and those type of things. So typically we'll identify who the next of kin is, where they're located, and we'll go to wherever they're at to do the notification. But then at that point, you also got to realize, let's say it's a child and we're going to their parents to do a notification. People also must realize they may have other siblings or other close family members that need to be notified. So once you do that initial notification, we may assist the family in notifying other people. So that may branch out into other notifications. And so we try to do that as quickly as possible, as vigilant as possible. But I'll just be honest with you, it's very hard to beat the Facebook, and it's very hard to beat those social media things that go out. And more often than not, people are getting notified that way instead of getting notified by chaplains and law enforcement. In
this past incident, your dispatch office did a good job, notified us to let people know that there was an accident in that area, to please avoid, and how the traffic was rerouted. So that was important information at that time. But of course, no personal information was released at that time until. But it was a sad situation, and anytime there's life lost or someone severely injured, just tragedy for our local area.
And and you think about this, not just automobile accidents, but think about things such as house fires and where people has lost everything they have. If they're at work and their house is on fire, how important it is to get notification from law enforcement or from dispatch or from somebody that you have a problem, you need to go to your house because you have a problem, than it would be to be scrolling through Facebook and see a picture of your house burning, you know. And so, it doesn't have to be an automobile accident. It could be a lot of personal things that are out there, that we need to stop and just take a breath and say, hey, wait a minute, should I really post this? They may not know this yet, so let me just hold back on this before I post it, And like I say, there's nothing wrong with, and I don't see anything wrong with people posting things of, you see these things such as there's an accident in Taunton, praying for the family. There's nothing wrong with those type of things, but when you start getting into identification things and taking pictures of stuff and putting names out and vehicle descriptions and those kind of things, those are all things that need to wait a little while until we can get that done.
There's just a process to go through to make sure everything is handled properly and that. And we do get a lot of people sending us messages, want to know why we're so slow on getting the information out there, but that's why. We want to make sure we're
and even now too, and getting away from that a little bit on into more law enforcement issues. We get the same thing. We get a lot of calls from not just media, but also from the public. Wanting to know why we've not released this on a certain investigation or a case or what we're doing, and why we've not heard anything else about it. And what people need to also remember about that is when we're doing an investigation, we have to worry about not just the protection of people as far as hurting their feelings and getting that information out that may hurt someone personally, but we also have to have the integrity of the investigation intact. So if we're still conducting an investigation and still ongoing with an investigation, we can't put information out there to the public that may taint that investigation or cause people to come in and give false statements or to change statements and things of that nature because they've read it on Facebook and I'm going to make something else up and go give them another statement, So there's an integrity in the investigation that has to be done. And so a lot of times when you have an event that happens in your neighborhood, sometimes people get frustrated because it's not in the paper the next week or it's not on the radio or we didn't put a press release out about it and they want to know what's going on with this. We will get that out at the appropriate time, but we have to keep the integrity of that investigation intact. And if somebody committed a crime or somebody needs to be charged, that literally could be tossed out of court and could literally some guilty person walk free because we printed something in the newspaper or because it got on Facebook or because some information got out. So we have to be very careful about that, and we have to make sure that we do things the right way. And so I hope people also understand that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your office being willing to come here every week and talking on the radio with us, sending us press releases, and communicating with the public. That I was on a radio station yesterday in Massachusetts, and one of their concerns was that their law enforcement were pretty much a closed door and saying a no comment type thing. And I was explaining how things here are a little different. That we have a very good relationship with law enforcement here, and it's very important that your office realizes how important it is to communicate with the people that make up our county.
I'll be honest with you. When I was elected sheriff and started going through training and through the sheriff schools and was doing conferences and stuff with a lot of the older sheriffs that have been in the state, have been there for many years, most of them had the attitude of don't make any statements, don't talk to them, just only tell them what you have to kind of thing. And I understand that for a lot of people there's reasons behind that, And I also realize the fact of that local media is different than national media, know, because for the most part, and I hope this is for the whole part, but for the most part, local media is not out to get you. They're not out to try to get a gotcha story or anything like that. But national media is a little bit different. They're out there a lot of times for the gotcha stories and try to get you fouled up into something.
Yeah, your local radio stations, your local TV stations. We're here as a community service.
Right. So we have a little bit different relationship, with that. And even with the regional market, we have a little bit different relationship. We've got people like Brittany Martin that's out in Chattanooga that's from Murphy. And so when we've got stuff going on, a lot of times Brittany will call me and say, hey, Sheriff, I've heard this is going on out there. Can you tell me anything about it? And I may say something to the effect of, well, yeah, Brittany, you're right, but I can't talk about it right now. But if you'll give me a day, and get some stuff straightened out and get some things nailed down, then I'll give you a statement and talk to you about it, And so it's just that type of relationship, that I think is important to let the media know and let the public know you're not trying to hide anything from them. That you have a job to do and you've got integrity of cases and you've got things that you've got to take into consideration. And also there's laws you got to take into consideration. There's certain things you can't say. There's certain things you can't put out. And there's things within the office like personnel issues and personnel matters. It's illegal to put that out and to talk about it. So there's a lot of things that people want to know, but for various reasons you can't tell them. But I think it's important that you keep that relationship open.
Exactly.
To where the media and the public understands that you're not just trying to hide stuff from them, that you've got a reason why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, we have to have a good communication and understanding each other and a mutual respect of each other's office. to make all this work.
Right.
And if we burn bridges on day one, then it's going to be hard to work together ever since.
Well, I think, something I did, and the sheriff's meetings that I went to, they all looked at me like I was crazy for doing it. But I think it's worked out very good here. As you recall, you were there that when I was elected sheriff, within the first couple of weeks of being sheriff, of taking office, we had a media meeting, and come in and sat down and just talked about things and talked about, the processes through the media outlets and all those type of things, and made some agreements amongst ourselves, that as far as press releases and what we would do and how that, that we would try to release this and give the information. And I think that really helped heal a lot of things with the media from the previous administration, about getting that communication out and not trying to hide things from the media and being open and honest with stuff. And so I think there's a mutual respect there. I think there's not just with the radio station, but I think with the newspapers and the TV and all those things. I think we've been able to create a mutual respect between the media and law enforcement. And there's times that I just have to say, no, I can't give a statement. I just can't tell you right now, So, and everybody seemed to be respectful of that. And because I think on things I can talk about and be open with, I think they understand that if I can talk about it, I will talk about it. But if I can, I can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. A week or two ago, there was another traffic accident at the intersection at Walmart there. And there were 2 fatalities in that accident as well. And some people had I was reading on online too. People were suggesting a reduced speed there, and some people had reduced or suggested having traffic cameras there, because I know they were looking for witnesses. The Murphy Police Department was looking for witnesses. What do you think is a good solution for that area?
One thing is, and I don't know if people don't realize this or not, I can't remember. I can count real quick. I think there is, if you go from Tennessee line to Topton, we can count them up, but I think there's 7 or 9 traffic lights, between Tennessee line and Topton. People don't realize that once you pass that last red light at Andrews, you can drive all the way to Raleigh without hitting another red light.
Right.
You can go another 500 miles and not hit another red light. One of the issues here is not necessarily the speed, I don't think, and I don't think the issue is necessarily dangerous roads. I think the issue is people being in a hurry.
Right.
And I think people trying to get through lights and beat lights and trying to, when they see that yellow light, instead of slowing down and preparing to stop, they accelerate and try to get through it, And then vice versa, you have other people who are watching the lights and know that it's fixing to turn green, so they may jump that light a little early, trying to get through it. Well, if you have that combination of somebody accelerating through a yellow light and someone trying to excel through a green light before it turns green, then you get those deadly combinations where you have those accidents. And it doesn't have to be that. It can be a combination of whatever. But I think the main thing is just slowing down and paying attention. I think we've gotten ourselves, like the Andy Griffith episode, I think we've gotten ourselves in a big hurry and we just need to slow down, And I think as far as our area here in Cherokee County is giving yourself plenty of time to get to work, giving yourself plenty of time to get your errands done and do the things you need to do. And when you see those lights, even if they're green, even slow down and look at what you're doing, because other people may be blowing through their red lights. So, you have that old argument, well, I was in the right, I had the legal right of way. Well, that's fine, but it doesn't matter if you had the legal right of way or not if somebody sideswipes and kills you.
Right.
So we just encourage people just try to pay attention. Not pay attention just to the speeds, but pay attention to, your lights and your traffic signs and all those kind of things out there.
Coming from Tennessee, we have one light at the Grizzly Bear hotspot. Then we have the next one at McDonald's intersection, I believe. And then
Peachtree.
Yeah, there's the Mount Vista Inn. Then
Bulldog Drive. Ingalls. Walmart.
Walmart.
Then your Casino light. Marble intersection. And then the Andrews intersection. So that's 9.
Wow.
That's 9 red lights through 74 there, 64, 74.
There's another one past Andrews, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, at the BP station at the Huddle House up there. So there are actually 10 lights. There's 10 lights.
So all those are in Cherokee County, 10 lights, and then you go out of Cherokee County and you can go all the way to the coast without another traffic signal.
I think it's, if you try to go to the beach going through Raleigh, I think it's right there at Raleigh when the road splits, before you hit another red light. So you can go about 500 to 600 more miles before you hit a light.
Well, I think a lot of people probably didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to someone the other day that that the bypass around Murphy wasn't there always. What do you know? What year that was being built?
I was young. I remember it being built. It was in the late 70s.
Even the 4-lane to Andrews and the 4-lane to Tennessee.
I can remember taking the old road through Tomatla, and Maltby and all that, going from Murphy to Andrews. I can remember traveling that road, and I lived in the Tomatla area on the opposite side of the river, over on the Peachtree side of the river. There used to be a steel bridge that came across where the campground there is at Interstate Weldon. Through that campground around the river, there used to be a road through there that crossed a steel bridge over to Tomatla. And I can remember when that was the main road, and that was how we got back and forth to Murphy and Andrews. We crossed that bridge and turned left to go to Murphy, or turned right to go to Andrews. But that had to be in the late 70s. And I don't know when the 4-lane actually opened, but I know it was in the late 70s when they were working on it.
I was born in 73, and I remember when I was a kid, I had to go to Asheville once a month to the eye doctor.
Right.
I'd gotten surgery in my eyes when I was 1, and we were taking the old road between Murphy and Andrews, and it was a 3-hour trip to Asheville.
Right.
And now it's under 2 hours.
Right,
so,
about an hour and a half, yeah.
So it's incredible, just the improvements, or adding the 4-lane highways, how much time that cuts out of a trip.
Right. It's amazing how things have changed here in the last several years, or a couple of decades, I guess I might say.
Seems like all those businesses out on Highway 64.
I don't remember if you were here or Donna was here when I was sharing this, but for those that may not have heard, I pulled out some old VHS tapes out of my closet where I was a patrol officer and had a dash cam in my car. And it just noticed one day, I was kind of actually slowing it down and watching as coming into Murphy, where all the old businesses were. You had Main Street out there on the 4-lane, and you had the Goodyear place, and you had all those businesses there that's no longer there anymore. And a lot of where businesses are now, it was just trees and wooded area.
Right.
But as I was coming into Murphy, what caught my attention was I looked at my timestamp on I don't remember what year it was like 98, 99. But on my timestamp there on my camera, on my dash cam, it was like 1 o'clock in the evening on Thursday. And I noticed that when I topped the hill out there where Arby's is now, coming all the way into town and went to the jail, where the courthouse is, where the old jail was, I was bringing a prisoner in. And on that camera watching it, I passed one car on Thursday at 1 o'clock coming into town.
Wow.
And that
1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, and that was in the late 90s. So that just kind of shows you, over the last 20 years, how things have changed in just 20 years.
Now it's hard to pull out on the 4-lane without having to wait for a long time for the cars to pass.
Yeah, during that lunch hour there on that same strip of road, sometimes just going in the direction you're turning out into may take 4 or 5 minutes just to get out on the road, But I thought that was interesting. It brought things in perspective, about how things have changed in the last 20 years or so.
I remember going out that strip of the road. The Big D was on the other side of the road, and we always went to Tasty Freeze out there.
Yeah.
That was a treat for us every once in a while as being kids.
Right.
The good old Tasty Freeze ice cream.
Yeah. There's a lot of businesses that used to be here that's not here anymore, or moved or went to different places.
Yeah. All right. What else is going on in the sheriff's office? Anything upcoming that you want to talk about?
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention, we've mentioned this a few times in the past, but we now have our new dispatch center up and running.
We
moved in yesterday, and this is our second day of operations there. Of course, as anything that's new, we're still working the bugs out of it. We're still got a little bit of radio work to do and some other technical things, but overall it's been a good transition. We've had some glitches in the radio system, but it seems like last night we went through a complete shift last night and back in today without any problems. So we think we're in the clear with that, and hopefully this coming week we've got a few other things we've got to iron out in the first of the week, but this next week, toward the end of the week, we're hoping to schedule an open house for people to come by and look at it if they want to come in and observe the dispatch center. But what we're going to try to do is limit that to an hour or so, or a couple hours. Obviously, we don't want people coming in and out all day long while they're trying to dispatch emergency calls. So we're going to try to limit that maybe to a couple hours, so that anybody that wants to come by and see the operation and see how it works and kind of the changes we've made and kind of take a little tour, we'll set some time aside next week for that.
If you're interested, we'll come do a virtual tour online.
We can do that.
If you'd like to do that.
Yeah, we may do that next week.
How do the dispatchers like the new location?
They're loving it. They love it. I talked to some of them the other day that had some reservations when we started the project.
Mm-hmm.
They really didn't know what they felt about coming to the sheriff's office and being inside the sheriff's office. But some of those people that I talked to before that had reservations about it, once they saw the center and saw how it operates and the technology and the good things that are there and the security that's involved in that, several of them told me that they no more have reservations, that they love it. They think it's great.
I was amazed at how high tech that facility was when I went to visit when you were working on it.
I would dare say that right now that we probably have the most high tech dispatch centers in Western North Carolina. Right, and that includes Buncombe County. So
that's something to be proud of.
So we are on the cutting edge of technology and some of the things that we're doing, and we've integrated a lot of that with computer systems within the patrol cars. So deputies are able to, as the case cards come out and as they log deputies en route to things, the deputies in the cars can actually check themselves en route or check themselves arrived at scene or cleared. And they can actually put case notes in the cards, and they actually have a way to have conversations back and forth with dispatch that's not on the radio. So there's just a lot of technology involved in that, and they're just loving it.
I don't think a lot of people realize how important that dispatch center is, but it is the first contact when you have an emergency. Calling 911, having someone there qualified, and the tools necessary to make sure that person is safe.
And one good thing about this center too, for the old center, we operated for years with two consoles at the old center, and we've recently got a third console up for emergencies. But this new center, we have the capability of running 4 consoles. And so if you have major events or you have, snowstorms and tornadoes and things of that nature, you could actually put 4 dispatchers at a time, and they're answering calls and dispatching different things. So it's
can they both be operated at the same time? So if you had 3 in one location, 4,
you
so
could,
7
you
possible?
could. You could actually run out of both centers at the same time.
So if there's a real bad emergency, then you can...
Yeah, the old center, what it become was a backup center. By the new state laws, you have to have a main center and a backup center for the event that you have a catastrophe, a terrorist attack, or a storm or something of that nature that takes out your center.
Right.
That you have a backup center for each county. So what happens with this new center, it became our primary, and then the old center became our backup center. So if necessary, if you had just a major event, if you had a 747 crash in downtown Murphy and you just had a major event going on, then you could actually operate out of both centers. You could probably run 7 consoles at a time. So,
and I know there are times that your call volume there gets so overwhelming for the number of people that are actually sitting there taking calls. So.
Right. And the good thing about having all those chairs and those things available is you can get more into dedicated things where you have one person dedicated to answering the phone. You had one person dedicated to EMS, one person dedicated to fire, one person dedicated to law enforcement. And then that way they're not having to do multiple jobs and overlapping over each other. They can dedicate themselves to one thing in the event of a major emergency. So it's real exciting. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish down there. And for those that may be wondering about this was primarily done by 911 funds that come from the state. So we're not having to use county monies to do that and use county budget to do that. It's coming from a state budget. And it's monies that are there anyway, and if we don't use them, somebody else will use them. So we use those state 911 funds to accomplish this and get it done. And of course, there's a few incidental things that we'll use out of county money for that, but the vast majority of it was state money. And so it doesn't put a burden on our local taxpayers.
All right. I can see our time has come and gone. Anything else you want to add before we close our show?
No, just everybody be safe this weekend. Looks like we're going to have pretty good weather on Saturday and Sunday. No snow this weekend, so have a good time.
Knocking on wood here.
There you go.
Our time is 11:35. It's WKRK Radio in Murphy, North Carolina.